Hello, everybody. I want to just go through some things that you might well know about regarding the Gospels, and they are the contradictions. Quite a few of them, roughly 20, to 25, I suppose, depending on how you count them, and depending on whether you count Acts as well, which is not one of the four Gospels. But my aim in doing this video today is to show you that these are not realistically historical accounts. There are too many fundamental contradictions on some really important features of the story of Jesus for them to have been, I suppose, one, credibly recounted by people who knew Jesus, or who knew a man called Jesus anyway, regardless of the more phenomenal aspects of the gospel traditions, and that two, they look like they are far more reasonably relics of mythic, storytelling than they are historical accounts. That's what my aim is in the next few weeks, really, and with a lot of the videos that I put out before, is to prove is that we can understand the gospel stories in much more a mythic context, and that we should do. And that is very interesting and important, I think, to do, so we can then look at the deeper stories, which I want to get into in the following months, and to help everyone understand that these can be used as extraordinarily powerful, universal and timeless stories for good living, for doing things properly. And that is, of course, discounting the times that Jesus says stupid stuff and racist, stupid things. And I don't believe we should ever take the gospel accounts, contradictory as they are, and we will see how they are very soon, as perfect ways of describing how one should live, because they are not that necessarily. Of course, we have to cherry pick the good stuff, and Christians obviously do cherry pick the good stuff. It's the same with the Old Testament. It's the same with Islam as well, and the Quran, which I want to get onto at some point. It just is a little difficult in our climate, in the world we live in right now, as a Brit and someone who's religious but not, really coming from the book. Anyway, let's go into these contradictions. I wrote this in my book, but I've just been aided here by that lovely AI, program that helps us all think with more clarity and more concision. So the four canonical Gospels of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are traditionally believed to stem from either apostles themselves or those closely associated with them, i.e. Mark and Luke. Yet a close reading reveals dozens of narrative contradictions that range from minor discrepancies to profound theological and historical clashes. And this document catalogues many of these contradictions, ranks their severity, and ultimately considers whether such inconsistencies are likely if these accounts originated from reliable eyewitnesses who knew each other well and shared life with Jesus. Chronological contradictions, date of Jesus' birth, and we have been through this in one or two other videos as well. So, date of Jesus' birth, Matthew 2:1 states Jesus was born in the days of Herod, so 4 BCE. Luke 2:2 claims it occurred during the census of Quirinius. This is 6 CE, so this is a 10-year gap. This is a major historical contradiction. This is not something you find would be likely that these guys would get wrong. Dates of the Last Supper and crucifixion, Synoptics, Matthew 26:17, Mark 14:12, Luke 22:7. I've got these on the page. Hopefully this is recorded the page as well, so I won't read the the chapter and verse here. You can go and look these up yourself if you want to. Last Supper was on the first day of Passover. John, however, Jesus dies on the day of preparation before, so the day before Passover begins. Serious theological and calendrical contradiction, and this followed the church around quite a lot. In early times, there was a massive Easter controversy. 3, length between resurrection and ascension. Luke, ascension happens on the same day as resurrection. Obviously, in Acts, it occurs 40 days later. Why the massive contradiction? This is huge. That's a big one. Time and setting of the Sanhedrin trial. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It's a night trial before Caiaphas and or the Sanhedrin. John, Jesus talks first to Annas. No formal Sanhedrin trial. Again, quite a big one. Date of Jesus' death, crucified at the 3rd hour, 9 o'clock in the morning. John, again, sentence at the 6th hour. This is noon. 3-hour discrepancy there, guys. Big one, quite big one, really. They shouldn't be getting this wrong. Of course, John massively diverges from the synoptics. Narrative and biology, generations traced through Solomon, and Luke here, generations traced through Nathan. So Matthew, generations traced through Solomon. Luke, generations traced through Nathan. Flight to Egypt versus return to Nazareth. Matthew has Holy Family flees to Egypt, and Luke they return straight to Nazareth after Jesus' birth. A big one, pretty big one. Who carries the cross? So baptism of Jesus. Jesus is baptized by John in Mark, but in John, John proclaims Jesus, but the actual baptism is omitted. A strange one. Again, John just diverging quite drastically from the synoptics. Who carries the cross? Jesus carries his own cross in John. Mark, Matthew, and Luke. Simon of Cyrene carries it. Again, fairly big contradiction. The death of Judas between Matthew, who hangs himself. So Judas hangs himself in Matthew. In Acts 1:18, he falls headlong and bursts open, and his intestines just fall out everywhere. He's huge, massively, grotesquely swells and so on. This is totally different. What happens to Judas? So 11, the calling of the first disciples. Mark, Matthew called while fishing, and John has them called following John's testimony. That's John the Baptist. Again, different. Cleansing of the temple. Near end of the ministry. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John has it at the beginning, close to the beginning at John 2. So that's a note. Again, they just switched this cleansing of the temple narrative here completely from the beginning in John to the end in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Again, completely different traditions. Resurrection contradictions. Who visits the tomb? John, Mary Magdalene alone. Mark, Mary Magdalene with Mary, mother of James, and Salome. Matthew, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary. Okay. And Luke, Mary Magdalene, Joanne, Mary, mother of James, and others. They're totally different accounts, guys. Totally different. These guys all knew each other. They had to have conversed with each other on this very thing. They get them wrong. This is obviously not being written by them. We don't. What do you see? Matthew. What do they see at the resurrection? One angel outside the tomb. Mark, so that's Matthew. Mark, one young man in the tomb. Luke, 2 men in dazzling apparel. And John, 2 angels inside the tomb. 15, this is the 15th. How do the women react? Mark, they flee and say nothing. Matthew, they run with joy and tell the disciples. Luke, they tell the 11. John, Mary Magdalene runs to Peter. Okay. 16, who sees Jesus first? Matthew, the women, Mark, Mary Magdalene, Luke, two disciples on the road to Emmaus, and John, just Mary Magdalene again. So Mark and John have it right this time. This is on the first to see him after the resurrection. So 17, Jesus' final instructions. This is the Great Commission, right? Matthew, Trinitarian Commission. He's the only one that gives the Trinitarian Commission, by the way. Paul really doesn't, which I've been through. Mark evangelizes evangelize the world, and that's in the long ending, Mark 16:15. This is not in the original ending, which ends at like Mark 9, I believe. So this is an ending that comes along hundreds of years after Mark is written. Luke, wait in Jerusalem. Okay. John, do not cling to me. I have not yet ascended. So John's like, I don't care. John doesn't really even say anything. Location of appearance. This is the appearance after the resurrection. Jesus appears in Galilee in Matthew, and Luke, Jesus appears in Jerusalem. Two completely different places. Jerusalem is in Judea. Structural and thematic contradictions. 19, these are the parallels. So Mark has 8 parallels, 2 unique. Matthew has 23 parables, 11 unique. Luke has 24 parables, 18 of them are unique. And John, get this, 0 parallels. He doesn't talk about any parallels. The miracles, and John has many stories that are unique to him, just storied, stories. Anyway, my miracles. I'll go through. I should remember at least one, but I can't at the moment. 20 miracles. Mark and Luke, 20 each, 6 and 7 unique respectively. John has 19, and 9 are unique, and Matthew has 19, 9 are unique. John has 8, and 6 of them are unique. Okay, so we can now conclude. Given the sheer volume, variety, and magnitude of these contradictions, it becomes exceedingly difficult to maintain the view that these texts are authored by men who had spent significant time together, witnessing the same events, and were writing under divine inspiration as well, or factual consensus. The inconsistencies in the timeline theologically witness testimony, parable usage, miracle selection, and resurrection narrative go beyond minor memory lapses. So these guys were picked by Jesus himself to go and spread the word. But was Jesus really in his right frame of mind himself when he picked these people? Because they get a lot of stuff wrong. So they reveal significant divergence and development, likely reflecting the theological agendas and community needs of the gospel authors rather than the factual record of unified eyewitnesses. Is it likely then that the apostles and their close companions, having lived together with Jesus and worked in unison for years, would produce 4 such wildly divergent accounts? Tentatively, the answer is, of course, no. The weight of evidence of these weight of the evidence strongly suggests the Gospels are later theological constructions or adaptations, not consistent biographical records from a unified group of eyewitnesses. So yeah, I'll just leave that there then. I don't want to make this a long video. Remember what we're trying to do here, and I have 3 very important videos coming up on, again, the way that we can now, I think I'm really beginning to find, based on the synthesis of other people's works, that we can study the contributions different cultures made to the New Testament and how now they formed. If you take Marcion really and look at John as a separate tradition, and I think I've amply demonstrated that it does appear to be a separate tradition via the contradictions and the fact that there are no parables in John, but there are a whole host of stories in John that are not in any of the other Gospels. The Easter controversy and so on. The fact that, I mean, both Mark and, interestingly, John have no birth narratives. They come later. Is also interesting because some of the nativity narratives really form a strong association with Greco-Roman myth, star myth as well, and astrology and astronomy, archaeoastronomy. So I'll leave that there. Have a good day, guys, and we'll be back tomorrow, or maybe today, because I might put out another video today. Okay, bye-bye.